troubleshooting test on our Edge Series taillights for the 18 to 23 Toyota Camry. The Edge Series is a 5-piece set, so it's got the 2 outside lights, the 2 trunk lights, and the trunk bar as well. So we have 3 of our pieces here. To test these, it's real simple. All you need is either a power inverter, or if you don't have one of those, that's okay. You can think of this black box as your car battery, and then you just need to get 2 wires and attach one to the positive terminal on your battery, and then one on the negative terminal on your battery, and this will allow you to replicate the power inverter to test the taillight set. So we have our negative and positive wires here, and the first light we're going to test out is going to be our outside light piece. All right, so we're going to start with our outside light here, and so this is the connectors on the back of it. That's the one that connects to the main OEM harness. This is the one that connects to this long cable. All right, so this is the long cable harness. So this right here will connect here, and then it will also connect on the opposing connector on the back of the trunk light, and that will feed the signal from the outside light up to the trunk light. So to test this, I'm going to turn it around so you can see it, and then I'm going to get my negative and my positive. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, this is my negative wire here, the black one. You can either connect it from the front or connect it from the back, depending on what kind of tester pin you have. I'm just gonna use that right there. All right, and then the first one I'm gonna test out is I'm gonna test out our red wire. So this is our red wire right here. There we go. So the red wire is the brake. All right, the next one I'm gonna test is the white wire. White wire is the animation and running light, so it's going to do the animation starting up. You can see it's doing the little strobe effect and the pulse effect, and it's going through its boot up animation. So you can see side markers working, everything's working. Now the running light is fully on, so that means everything's working. Next up, we're going to test the turn signal. So if we test it out, if you're just testing it, it'll come on, just stay on, but you'll notice it does the sequential, and then it just stays on for testing purposes, which is fine. So that tells us everything is working with that. So that lets us know everything is working perfectly fine. A couple things I do want to point out in the back is you'll notice this right here. This is your load resistor. So what that's for is when you're using your turn signals, it keeps your turn signal from hyper flashing or from your vehicle thinking that you've got a turn signal bulb out. This should already be connected. If it's not, make sure that this plug right here is connected, because that is the plug that attaches the load resistor to the turn signal wires for the harness, so that way it uses the load resistor to keep you from getting that hyper flash. All right, so next up we'll test the trunk light out. So this is our trunk light here, and this is the back of it. All right, so what we've got here, we've got a couple of connectors. So we have this connector here, which is for the reverse light. This is the connector here for the main OEM taillight harness. This is the small connector for that big long cable harness we were talking about that feeds the power from the outside light up to the trunk light. And then this little connector right here, this actually will connect over to the opposing connector that's on the trunk bar, which we'll show that in a moment when we test it out, but that actually feeds signal over to it. All right, so to test it, I'm gonna turn it here so you can see it. And I'm gonna take my negative wire here, and we're gonna first start with this big, large white connector here. So this is the main ground. I'm just going to plug it on the back there, and I'm going to get my positive wire, and I'm going to test out first the red wire. So the red wire here, let me get that lined up right. There we go. All right, so that's the red wire there. So what that is right there, that's the Euro fog light. So that's only going to be on the European models. So unless you're driving a European Camry, you do not need to test that. We'll test the blue wire out. Blue wire, that is the reverse light. All right, and then next we're gonna keep the ground still hooked up on the white connector, and we're gonna go over here and we're gonna test these wires on this little small black connector, because that's the ones that go to that big cable harness. So first we're gonna do the red one, and this is the brake light. Next we're gonna do the yellow, which is, the yellow will be the turn signal. So you'll see it does the sequential, and we'll do it. Does sequential and then it just stays on, which since it's in test mode, that's fine. And then next we'll take and do the white one. White one's going to be the animation, and then the running light once it's done with the startup animation. So we'll let it run through the full process there. Okay, and there you go. It's booted up all the way, so the running light is on. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna test this little connector here. This is that connector for the reverse light. So the reverse light's in like 2 different connectors, this connector and that connector there, depending on the model. Okay, and go ahead and hook up our negative one to the black wire, and we'll test this little blue wire. So that is the reverse light. And again, that's just because, you know, depending on the model and everything, it's got reverse light in 2 different positions on the harnesses there. All right, and then the last thing we're going to test here, this is the LED trunk bar. So this is the 5th and final part of the tail light set. So this has that little white connector that I was showing you that goes on the back of the trunk light. It specifically is the driver's side trunk light. So you'll notice that if the tail lights were sitting together, this would actually be the driver's side trunk light and then the LED bar, and then that cable harness will connect over to the back of it. All right, so to test this, it's only got a couple things it can do. We're going to take and connect our negative wire here to the pin for the negative wire on this little white connector. And then we'll take my positive wire here and I'm gonna connect it. There it goes. Running light animation. Okay, so that the white wire is the power for the running light animation on the LED trunk bar, and the black is the ground. So you can see everything works fine on that. We're going to keep our ground hooked up on this little connector, and then you've got 2 little wires here. One is yellow and one is red. So we're going to test the red one first. So you notice that is the turn signal. Looks like that is the left turn signal. And then the other one should be the right one. So we'll just double check that. Yep. Okay. So what you have to do on those right there is you'll have to extend those wires to hook up the turn signal. You'll need to extend those wires and manually tap them in to the positive left turn signal and positive right turn signal wires. That way you can get power. Okay. So with that, the LED bar is working fully, and this tells us that our tail light set is working fully. So do keep in mind, if you're having any sort of issues with any part of the tail light set for the Edge series, this type of troubleshooting does have to be done once you verify, you know, all the connections are good, none of the wires are messed up or anything like that. If like a turn signal is not working or a brake light's not working or something like that, we will request that you test it using this method here, so that way we can send that information to the manufacturer for the warranty claim if the tail light set's within warranty, and then that'll allow us to verify the defect. We do hope you found this video informative. If you do have any questions, feel free to shoot us an email at info@hirevsports.com, and we appreciate you watching. Thank you very much.